Hello everyone, welcome to our monthly study intensive. This is lecture 18 on the series of studying Avatamsaka Sūtra. And then today again we are going to have 3 sessions, and I hope you will continue to enjoy reading and studying and tasting Avatamsaka Sūtra. Now, I do like to go right back into where we left off, which means chapter 8 is our first chapter we really like to examine and enjoy and take as many teachings out of this. But I actually remember I missed talking about the 2 things from the previous chapter, chapter 7. As a matter of fact, this is about, it's more like I forgot responding to the questions from the people. So I'm going to talk about the 2 things, which is my response to the questions out of chapter 7. So I'm going back a little backward. Let's see. On page 263, let me see. I hope by now all of you do have your textbook. As the chapter starts, we were talking about this word lotus flower days, a platformed chair, and then lion throne. Let me use the shared screen so that all of us know what I'm talking about. Hold on. Okay, so I was telling you about this lotus flower days is the translation of Rengeza. It is direct translation is lotus flower chair, and then this is the type of the chair as you see the iconology. When you go see those Buddhist Buddha's statues, most of the time Buddha is situated on the chair, which actually is a lotus flower. And then another one is a lion throne is translation of Shishiza. Directly translated is a chair for the lion, and I explained what it means. Now the question came out of this portion. Someone who was traveling together with us, actually it was one of the 3 French-speaking team. One of our Dharma brother from France was briefly asking me what is the meaning of the pattern of our zagu? Zagu is our bowing mat, and also this bowing mat is it's a piece of cloth. But on the piece of the cloth we are supposed to sit on, especially, let's say, for instance, in every morning when we are going through morning service, we are sitting on zagu, right? And then as a matter of fact, there was the conversation just so quickly came out while we were walking across the bridge in Uji. The famous Uji River has that huge bridge, famous bridge, historic bridge, on which many historic events have happened, etc., etc. I'm sorry, I'm not going to get into there because it's going to be a whole full story. But anyway, on that day, we started out going to visit some place on the other side of the river, and I was so quickly trying to bring the whole group of the people to Byodoin, because it was towards the end of the day, and I was worried about maybe we don't really make it in time. So therefore, I really didn't fully explain, and I just simply said, that means you're sitting in the center of the world. And I don't think it probably didn't mean much to the gentleman, Dharma brother. So I hope he's going to watch this video. For those of you who are not familiar with what I'm talking about, this is zagu. And then this is how it looks like when it's folded. Oh, let's take this down and let me show you. It's a rectangular piece, but when you fold it to sit on, it looks like this. So this is the pattern this Dharma brother from France was asking about. Of course, it is really related to this portion of Rengeza. This means, according to what I learned, but the first time I actually learned about this is from Aoyama Roshi. So I'm sure it is correct. Of course, there are several ways of talking about this, but this really means you are sitting in the middle of the world, at the center of the world. Do you see? There are 4 directions, and also plus 4 directions in between, and you are on top of it. So this is really, again, related to wherever you are, where you sit is the center of interest. Because you can only see and feel, experience this interest net from this portion. And then, so therefore, this is also related with, typical Zen expression. Wherever you are the master. You are not the assistant. Whatever you are doing as an assistant, you do it as a master. So, as a matter of fact, in Hossen Shiki in Japan, I don't know if that portion is translated or it is necessary to translate, but there's a portion of the narrative. They say, on the top of the zagu, we are actually sitting at the center of the world. Now, this is a formatted, standardized zagu. Then what about Nyohoe zagu? This is the Nyohoe zagu inside. And as you know, Nyohoe, when you fold it, it's a folding pattern is a little different. But then at the same time, it is again square. And in the middle of the square, again, north, south, west, and east, and all of that. And in the middle of that, you're sitting it. So I think this was a very interesting question to respond at the point of this, studying lotus flower days and lion throne. So in another word, we are sitting on top of lotus flower Āryas all the time. Right now, I am and you are. So I try to take care of my role as much as possible wholeheartedly. And for those of you who may be listening to now or later, will do your role as a listener wholeheartedly, 100%. That's how this whole, Dharma events works. Another portion is, in this chapter and other chapters, there's always a description and there's a Buddha, and then to visit the Buddha and to listen to what the Buddha is going to say. Sometimes it's a Bodhisattva, and in these chapters it's Manjushri Bodhisattva. There are numerous numbers of the people come, yes? And then also, there's always a depiction of from the north, from the south, from the east, or from the west. So this direction thing is quite much in our consciousness. So, it may be a little sidestepping from Sutra itself, but I wanted to talk about this Tozai Namboku. So Tozai Namboku is a Japanese expression of those 4 directions, east, west, south, and north, inside our community. What I'm precisely talking about is within Dharma Hall, we have a specific tradition. You may, start to listen to me talking about that, and you may think, oh, I have nothing to do with it. Or, this is just about the etiquettes and manners within the Dharma Hall. But please hold on. And then the reason is this is also related with some Zen texts, and sometimes some portion of the Zen text sounds as if some kind of riddle or mystery. But if you do know this tradition, you understand those are not riddle at all. So it actually helps you if you are interested in Zen text and Koan text. So this goes all the way back to, we talked about the mythological Indian tradition of cosmology. And then they thought on the north, as I think for people who live on Indian continent, the north means Himalayas. And then there's mountains like Mount Everest. It's really tall and so magnanimous. So north is some place for them, the creator of the universe or king of this heaven, king of that heaven, etc., living there. So that was really kind of etched into their tradition, and then also creeps into Buddhist traditions, even though you don't really see it as it is, and as I was explaining in the previous chapter, it becomes more symbolic expression and utilized as a symbolic expression based on in sync with or in alignment with newly arose Buddhist teachings. But as it goes into China, this sense also, sensitivity kind of matches well, but it is not really about the mountains. Their tradition in the court, they have dynasty after dynasty, and each one of the dynasty tends to have like 300 to 400 years of lifespan. But basically, each dynasty has the emperor, and then emperor has its own internal court. And they had a traditional way of situating themselves inside of the room on the north side of their room. So in another word, the people who are facing north side are the, most important, officers, because those people who come into the internal chamber of the emperor are the most trusted one. So, for instance, when you say Hokumen no Bushi in Japanese, which means, let's say, warriors facing north, it's a synonym of someone who's most trusted guards for the emperor, or people who situate facing the north are the people who are really revering emperor, okay? And then most of the time, eastern side, they situated those people with a higher rank of the people, and then western side, it was less, they are higher rank of the people, but the lesser high rank of the people. And this was the tradition. So, for instance, when emperor stands in the middle, facing the emperor, this side is the next most important person, and this side is the third important person. 1, 2, 3. So that type of tradition, as you remember, Buddhism, as it comes to China, of course, there's a little bit of period of disruption. But most of the time, Buddhism was taken in by government, and also Buddhist priests actually became, government officers. In other words, they became Buddhist priests passing through state-run, examination and stuff. So therefore, this tradition of someone who's the most important is situated in north and facing the south actually became a Buddhist tradition as well. It's a mixture between Indian cosmology and original, native Chinese tradition somehow merged. So they started to create their temple structure in that way. So in another word, when you go to Hatto Dharma Hall, what's in the north is Buddha statue. Yes? So therefore, on the north, that's a Buddha statue. But, interesting thing is, most of the time, you cannot really create all of the Buddhist temple and then situate the most important altar on the north facing the south. Because sometimes the land you succeeded or received from the government or from your supporters may be hilly or may have some sort of swamp on the north, etc., etc. So therefore, it has nothing to do with the real direction. But inside of the temple, inside of the Dharma hall, eventually they started to use the word north as synonym of where altar is, where Buddha is. And so therefore, eastern side will be someone who has a higher rank. In other words, in the seniority list, those are the elderly people, elders, not really elderly, but the people who have practiced in the same place a longer time. And the western side is more like actively entered new students. And then eventually, as the number goes, larger, eastern side also means, there's a line of the places, and they started to create a little chamber after the lines. And then this chamber will be, dignitary. If the dignitary visits this temple, and if they want to join the services and join the congregation or assembly for some reason or another in Dharma hall, that's where this dignitary comes. So I'm talking about this because I see a little bit of confusion here and there, because sometimes for instance, in Hosenshiki, let's say, when Shuso bows to the teacher first, then where does he or she bows? She goes to eastern side, because eastern side is the higher rank and the dignitary guests are sitting, so they bow there first, and then they turn to west side, then bow. And this has nothing to do with actual directions. It is a name of a side of the Dharma hall. And so when this came to the United States, and then this word, north, south, east, and west, was directly translated as north, south, east, and west, they actually thought it was something about the direction. So sometimes I see, in Hosenshiki, Ino starts to say, please return the bow, starting from western side, because in this particular place, western side is actually east in the Dharma hall. So the dignitaries who's normally coming from Japanese-speaking people, if it is Soto school, they were like, so what am I supposed to do? So I just wanted to clarify this, because a group of the people who's been following this lecture series includes Buddhist priests, Europeans and Americans, and also including some people who are still on the way to accrediting monasteries to spend several months to several years there. So when you get there, please don't get confused. When they use the word east and west, higashi, nishi, todo, saido, etc., etc. It's just, you should just think, when they say east, it is the facing the altar, it's on your right side, okay? I just wanted to mention this to prepare some people to go to those ceremonies and stuff. It's very difficult to correct this because when that happens, it's like a momentary thing. And then after the event, you forget to correct the information. And also to correct the information, you have to explain what it is. How many minutes did I use this, you know? So anyway, those are the two things I forgot to add in the previous lecture. Now, finally, let's go to chapter 8. So chapter 8 starts from page 273. Now, as you see, this is the chapter for Four Noble Truths. Again, this is a translation issue. In English-speaking world, we really don't have the consensus yet how to translate the specific Buddhist, traditional Buddhist terminology. This is shishotai for us. When we say shishotai, we all know what the shishotai means. But then in here, each translators come up with their own version of a translation. Some people say it's Four Noble Truths, and this one is Four Truths of the Āryas, etc., etc. So sometimes the reader gets confused. But this is the first one of it is said to be the first, expanding Dharma by Gautama Buddha. So I think this is a very interesting way of editing this sutra, Avatamsaka Sūtra. Up to now, we were talking about the Buddha Dharma, and then actually it was a description of Buddha Dharma. It's a rather conceptual description of the Buddha Dharma. Now, Manjushri is introduced in the previous chapter. Now, Manjushri actually talks about actual Buddha's teaching. And of course, this is the first one. And so therefore, to revere and respect Gautama Buddha's own teaching, it starts, and Manjushri starts with Gautama Buddha's first teaching, which is Four Noble Truths. I am sure most of you are familiar with this Four Noble Truths, but let me just show this on shared screen first. Four Noble Truths. I'm sorry, I keep saying Four Noble Truths instead of Four Truths of Āryas. Because in the type of the communities I have been with for many years, Americans here likes to use the word Four Noble Truths, and then I think it's clearer. So I'm going to say this as a Four Noble Truths because I think the sound, it sounds more familiar to many of you anyway. Four Noble Truths is a translation of shitai or shishotai. Shishotai's sho is a translation of Āryas. I believe originally, as long as I can remember, reading the older layers of Pali-canon, originally they didn't use the word this noble or sacred, Āryas meaning sacred. So I don't know if this translation, the Four Truth of the Āryas, is actually correct. But anyway, because the Āryas, when you do Ara, the and S, it becomes the group of the people, yes? And also, original idea was, it just simply said shitai. So originally it was simply said four-folded truth. Truth may be a little stretch to translate Thai, but it is more like a four-folded how things are. Yes? So if how things are as it is, it's a truth. So I think it's a translation out of that. But it later added this word sacred as Buddhists organization is established and it starts to spread widely, and then they also have a need to present themselves respectively, because I'm sure at the beginning it was a competitive situation with the other more popular organizations, more popular religions, and more popular religious organizations. So therefore, Buddhist organization itself really started to present themselves a little more kind of like, nobly. So therefore, they started to add the word, this noble or Āryas, into this. So it's originally taught, teaching was, this is a four-folded way, how these things are. So that's how Gautama Buddha intended to teach. In original Sanskrit, Kachure Āryā Satya is the word. So this portion you don't have to include. Now, those four, as you remember, Dukkha, Samudaya, Nirodha, and Marga. How this is translated most of the time is suffering, accumulation or origin, and then cessation. Cessation is now, we prefer to translate as a control, and then Marga is the path. As you always probably, when you start to be interested and you pick up the first book, and the first book of the Buddhism often talks about this Four Noble Truth. Or you go to some Zen centers. It doesn't have to be Zen centers, any kind of Buddhist centers, including Tibetans and etc., etc. When you join some sort of study group, this is one of the first teachings. So I don't know how you received it, but very often people tend to say, we as a human being live this life, and many experiences we have tends to be feeling as if it is a suffering or pain. And then therefore, we really want to know why this pain comes from. And so therefore, you really go into, so to speak, exploring the reason of this pain, reason of this suffering. This is like a medical process. You have some sort of issue, and then you go to the doctor, and doctor examines you and try to see the core reason why you have this pain. And then when you really actually understand the cause of it, then you can really explore way to control it or extinguish it. I don't think this Nirodha is extinguishment or cessation. But during the time of Abhidharma, they really wanted to, present it as a complete cessation. But from a Mahāyāna Buddhist point of view, it is more like a control, okay? And then to do so, Buddha suggested there are ways how you conduct your life. And it is often explained as an eightfolded path. So there's a Hashodo, eight path is explained. But today I don't get into that. But this Dukkha, Samudaya, Nirodha, Marga, we need a little bit of exploration, what exactly means. One of the biggest agenda for us to study Mahāyāna Buddhism is particularly this, Avatamsaka Sūtra was created during the time of transition from the majority of the people who are into Abhidharma type of Buddhism. Now it's really starting to be opened up for larger group of the people, including lay people, and also teaching becomes deeper and also clearer. So therefore, how a couple of centuries before, or even crossing over time, the other group of the people, how they see Four Noble Truths, and Mahāyāna group of people, Avatamsaka group of people, looking at this is very different. So first of all, what we really need to know is this word dukkha. Dukkha, if you really dig into the origin of the word and what exactly Gautama Buddha was trying to depict, dukkha is, I currently translate this as an existential gap, which means as soon as I start to establish this sense of I, statically saying I exist here. So therefore, I think this way, I want it this way, I don't want that way. So therefore, as soon as you establish I, you establish something vis-a-vis outside of you. And then, of course, I and then things outside of you never go in sync. Sometimes it feels like it goes in sync, but eventually it starts to depart into different directions. And then you start to feel, wait a minute, that's not what I wanted. Sometimes it's opposite. I want that, but it doesn't come to me. I didn't get what I want. So that is the gap you feel between I versus what I wanted. Recently, in Japan, most of the Buddhist priests, when they explain this dukkha, oh, by the way, this dukkha in Japanese, it's ku. Maybe I should write it down. Ku, and this is shu, this is metsu, and this is do. Those of you who recite Heart Sutra in Sino-Japanese, you immediately catch the word. Mu ku shu metsu do. Mu chi yaku mu toku I mu sho toko. It goes on and on. That ku shu metsu do is dukkha samit, let's say, dukkha origin control path. Yes? So then, what is the origin? And of course, based on the Buddha's teaching, the core teaching is this is interrelated origination, inter-be. So therefore, there's no I. So the origin is as soon as you establish I and cling to it, then this sense of suffering or sense of existential gap happens. Now we know the core. So how to control that? And then if you control that, this existential gap, very often you call it as a pain and suffering, tragedy, etc., actually may be controlled. So therefore, we suggest this and this and that. And then this and this and that is actually not 8 different ways. It is just one thing. We are basically talking about moment by moment, whatever you are doing during the time you are actually awake. So if you take a look at those, it is really about, one moment I'm talking. So I have to be very conscious about, mindful about what we are talking. And one moment I'm listening, someone's talking or someone's, voice. And then you really have to take in and listen correctly. And then also one moment you may be standing or you may be walking, and then it is really about mindfulness of your gesture and mindfulness about how you relate with the people or things in front of you or using or in your hand, etc., etc. So again, out of this do, marga, path, out of this eightfolded path, if we explain it from Zen word, it's Gyoju Zaga. There's a word called Gyoju Zaga we often use. Gyoju Zaga, as it is basically, moving, walking, and then stopping, standing, and then situating, or laying down. But when we are talking about every single moment of activities, including speech and also thoughts, throughout the day. So that's how we see from the Mahāyāna point of view. Instead of this really kind of rigid, you feel this way, so therefore you have to do the exploration and you find the origin and you have to attack on this and you have to completely extinguish it. To do so, you do 1, you do that, 2, you do that, 3, you do that. That is a very rigid way Abhidharma era was explaining this teaching. Now we see the challenge, counter statement from a Mahāyāna point of view toward this very essential, most probably one of the most clearest, important teaching from Gautama Buddha. As a matter of fact, that was the first thing Gautama Buddha, supposed to be, first thing he said. So with that in mind, let's take a look at this text. So first I'm going to take this down, and then I ask you to pay attention to the actual textbook. It's a heavy textbook. I have it here. We are going to read a little bit, page 273, the opening, okay? Chapter 8, the Four Truths of the Four Noble Truths. At that time, Manjushri Bodhisattva Mahasattva informed the Bodhisattvas saying, "Sons of the Buddha, in this Saha world," remember this is the world we live in this Saha world, noble truth of suffering may be synonymous with karmic offense. You know what? Rather than reading this with a really bad pronunciation, I'm going to show this on your note. Okay, I'm going to use the shared screen again. I listed that up. In this text, what they do is there are so many different ways these Four Noble Truths actually manifests in our world. So, of course, as Avatamsaka Sūtra being such an ornate, fantastic way of description, it says, in this Saha world this way, and in that world this way, in that world this way. But it is a very interesting way to say there are so many manifestations of this dukkha, etc., etc. So I'm going to pay attention first, one of the most important one of our world. And also, I'm going to see dukkha portion, and then also cessation portion, control portion. And that's what I did for numberizing it, okay? So it says karmic offense, excuse me, corrosion and change, grasping conditions, aggregates, piercing of thorns, roots of it which it depends, deception, abscess, is that okay? Abscess, and then actions of the foolish common person. Again, when you take a look at the English translation only, very often we don't know what they are talking about. So I don't. As a non-English speaking person, I can't even really figure out what the translator's thought process was. So just to help you to understand a little better, I put the original word here. And this is very interesting to me. First, this dukkha appears to be as a karmic offense. This karmic offense is a translation of gaiyaku. Gaiyaku basically means you feel someone tried to harm you. So I think this karmic offense, meaning the translator's way of thinking is that this is the type of the offense I feel I received. So therefore it says karmic offense, but I think we can actually translate a little differently. Because as you say karmic offense, it's a little difficult to understand from translation. But when you say original word gaiyaku, you feel, oh, okay, that's what it means. As a matter of fact, it's really interesting. You see the original and you see kind of stretched translation, then you really actually understand better. Now, this immediately makes you remember Kannongyo. I think many of you are very familiar with the Kannongyo, and if you are not, please come to our Wednesday classes. Actually, you don't have to come to Wednesday classes anymore because we are recording everything and posting everything on YouTube and the website. Yay! So it saves you time. You can study anytime you like. But anyway, if you're familiar with the Lotus Sutra, on chapter 25, which is probably the most well-known chapter, particularly among Soto school practitioners, because we recite this chapter every single day. And then this chapter famously has this verse portion. Just like many other Buddhist texts, it's a mixture, just like Avatamsaka Sūtra as well, prose and verse. And then particularly 25th chapter of Lotus Sutra, Kannongyo, that's a nickname, as known as Kannongyo. These famous lines goes 12 times. These 12 times lines are very interesting lines because it says there's some kind of harm is going on or afflicted on me. And then you bring your sense of understanding of God, Buddha's teaching, and also shikantaza practice and the quality of shikantaza, then you actually see the situation differently. And it repeats 12 times. And those harm given to you, and then actually harm is not done, it's connected with Nempi Kannondiki. Nempi Kannondiki basically means bring yourself back into shikantaza practice. And then you see the other side of looking at this. So right now, Michelle and I are working on offering our own original translation, but it's not done yet. So I'm going to use currently available, one of those three currently available translation, but slightly changing it. But if you do know, if you do have this version, this is the version I'm kind of reading out from. And if you do use this version of the translation, I'm reading out from 376, page 376. This is the beginning of what we call 12 challenges. Okay, so for instance, it says, if someone intending to harm you and throws you into a burning pit, that's the gayak portion, karmic offense portion, offense afflicted to you. But then on the other hand, the pit of fire is actually a pond. I have to explain this. Pond in Indian tradition is a wonderful bathing place. And very often they utilize the area of the pond as a recreational relaxation, sometimes for vacation. And also cleaning yourself in the water in the pond was very important, almost like a ritual for their original belief system. So on one side, it's a burning pit, but as a matter of fact, that's how you see it. But actually, what you see as a burning pit is just a pond. This is a very interesting expression. And it goes into, if you are drifting around in a great ocean, again, ever since very old time, this great ocean is the depiction of this secular world. And then threatened by dragons and fish and various demons, there are dragons and very weird looking fish. Sometimes these fish eats people's flesh, and then various demons. Yes, many of them live in the ocean. We all know that, yes? And then you feel that way. But on the other hand, if you bring Nempi Kannondiki, you are actually not going to drown into the wave. In this really, treacherous world, you sail in and you meet all these really strange creatures, and they're going to offend you, they are going to try to catch you, they are going to, rob you, etc., etc. But then you are not going to be drowned into the ocean. And this sense of drowning is also a typical, symbolic expression of we are often psychologically drowned into something. Some people are drowned into, let's say, carnal desire. Some people are drowned into drugs. Some people are drowned into alcohol. But you are not going to be drowning yourself into those things. And another next one says, if you are on the peak of Sumeru and someone pushes you off, why would anybody pushes you off from the top of the Mount Sumeru? Top of the Mount Sumeru is where heavenly beings live. You know, sometimes we feel like, well, you know, I made such a great achievement. I'm like feeling the top of the world. And then, so therefore, as soon as you feel that way, you also feel, well, there's somebody who's behind me and trying to push me off so that they can take that position. So as soon as you have a sense of success, you always start to worry about, well, then when does this success finish? There's always an ending portion. Once you gain some fame eventually fades away and someone's going to take over. Now, you bring the sense of shikantaza, or your clarification of Buddha's teaching, Nenpi Kannon Riki, you will stay in the sky like the sun. So in another word, what happens is you think you climbed up on the top of the mountain. This sky is a translation of ku. So originally what they are trying to depict is you thought you climbed to something tangible and you are on top of it. But as a matter of fact, you are just staying in the middle of emptiness. Nothing really went up or down. Nothing is really pushing. And even if you feel, I was just pushed, I'm falling and falling. But what's happening is you are just in the middle of the emptiness, in the middle of the sky. That's what it is. And the next one says, if you are pursued by bad people, thrown down from Diamond Mountain, and this Diamond Mountain is Vajra Mountain. So it's not really a diamond mountain. So again, not the hair will be injured. So you think you are pushed down and you are going to be harmed and etc. etc. But as a matter of fact, nothing is really being harmed. I think you are talking about again the sense of jealous, sense of feeling someone, your rival, is trying to be, push you off. But as a matter of fact, what exactly did you have to lose? So this is a very interesting portion. What I'm trying to point out, again, this dukkha, the first portion, is described over and over and over and over, again, utilizing 10, yes? Because that's the theme of Avatamsaka Sūtra. But each one of them, you keep reading and you start to get, so this is really about the time I set up I vis-a-vis others. And then, therefore, if I set up I, there's always a success and failure, long and short, large and small, good and bad. And that's the time this existential gap starts to happen. Next one, I'm sorry, I'm going back to the shared screen, okay? But you also have your own textbook. In the textbook, it's all kind of, crushed. So I thought it is clearer if I open this up into the, on the shared screen. Next one is translated as a change. Next one is correlation. Correlation is, I personally didn't understand why this word was chosen. So I went back into the original. Original is hippaku. Hippaku is the type of the feeling you are kind of pressured and shoved around. As a matter of fact, recently, really utilize my leftover of my life as much as possible for Dharma. I really have this very strong sense of gratitude that I lived more than my parents. No one lived more than 69 years old. So therefore, I always felt, I don't have the gene to live out of that, but I did. And then, despite the fact I have so many medical issues, but I still live in this whole world with this current, day-by-day advancement of medical technology. So I'm supported by so many things. And then currently, I came to the point, I'm 70 years old, I'm retired, I really don't have to do any kind of struggle to make living out of doing some sort of a work, like bartering work. So therefore, I really want to dedicate the rest of the life offering back what I have learned from many of those wonderful teachers. Whatever I know should be just spilled out and then spread out and shared. It's such a shame that I keep it just to myself and die. So therefore, that's what I'm doing. But sometimes I have this strange sense of, how many years can I live? So therefore, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I should be doing that. I have to do this by such and such. So I have this sense of deadline that I'm starting to feel this hippak sense. So I always try to, remember my teacher, Okumura Roshi, said, he's somebody who made such a huge achievement in such a short 40, 50 years. How many books he wrote and how many sessions he sat and guided. But despite of that, he says he also feels the same way from time to time. So he says, from the karmic point of view, if I start to worry, was my mission success or failure? Then I always start to feel a little bit of anxiety. But then if I really situate myself from Dharma, I really start to feel more relaxed, and it really doesn't matter because there's no such a thing like success or failure. So therefore, again, when I set up myself, how I am going to do, then there's this, hippaku. I think courageon means similar, I hope, in English. But that's what it means originally. Number 3 is listed as a change. Change is hengi. So I guess this is really okay, but what they are talking about is sometimes you have something, I really want to keep it this way, but this thing you really want to keep status quo always changes. Sometimes you have something, I want it to change. I don't want it. I don't want to have this as it is. I really want to change it, but it keeps staying. Again, why this change is an issue is, again, I have the wish. I want it to change. I don't want it to change. Next one, this is an interesting portion. Grasping condition is a translation of 認識対象の領域. It's an interesting translation, I think. 認識対象, this word. 領域 is a realm. So in another word, it is the realm of 対象 is an object, and 認識 is, how do you say? It is consciousness, but it is more like, my function of the mind. So my function of the mind really starts to see something as an object. So in another word, this is a realm I created, subject and object. And then when you create subject and object, you have this condition of grasping conditions, I think. That's probably how this translator decided to translate 認識対象の領域 into grasping conditions. But this is really about the subject and object, building subject and object. Again, how do you do that? You establish your sense. Next one is aggregates. Aggregates are, translation of on, or atsumari. This is really talking about the 5 skandhas. This is a visceral sense of five skandha keep on creating something solid and solider, really solid. You know, I always have this expression, but today I have a flower behind me. So five skandha system, as you remember, Shiki, Ju, Gyo, So, Shiki. Yes, Shiki is rupa, a thing, a matter. So in another word, as soon as I recognize a separated self, matter, which is called I, then the separation starts. So starting from the separation, and then this separated me have a six sensory system. You know, this six sensory system is such an interesting teaching. What are six sensory system? Eyes, ears, nose, mouth, tongue, and the body, which means the skin and the sense of the skin, and the mind. Yes? And all of that is an organ to determine what's this and something outside. Like for instance, you know, when we say skin, we often forget the skin is one of the large organs. And also, for instance, most of the time we are not particularly familiar with, conscious about this. But let's say, have you ever had a sense like you go to some kind of countryside and you start to feel something itchy on your skin? And then you feel, oh, what is this? And you have this little bug biting you. And then you really recognize, oh, it's, you know, skin is such a great communicative organ to let me know what's outside and what's strange to me and myself. So it's like a border making, or how do you say, separation making, dichotomy making organs. So, so therefore, my one of the six sensory system, I, catches this, and I start to give it a name, red, and then my mind starts to move. This is Ju, So, Shiki, Ju, So. Then I start to say, oh, this is an orchid, and this is a beautiful orchid. That's a perception. And after the perception, my mind starts to move along, starting to add the story, saying, this is the orchid, I was given such and such, this is beautiful, but how am I going to really do this? I have to go out to some stores to buy more soil and report it, and etc., etc. Then I really start to have these opinions and etc., etc. That is aggregates. And again, it's the whole system itself is really about the static myself vis-a-vis other things. And then that's how suffering starts. And this is the origin of the ku, yes? And then this is how ku or dukkha is felt. Number 6 is translated piercing thorns. Piercing thorn is the translation of shigeki. I think this is like a literal translation using the word thorn, because thorn is translation of this one. But as a combined word, as a shigeki, it doesn't particularly mean thorn. It is more like a stimulative impact. So, you know, let's see. Some kind of sense you need, sometimes you feel some kind of a stimuli. You know, you are bored, or you feel you are lacking something. So therefore, you need some kind of stimuli coming in so that you can fulfill the sense of lacking and then place it into your sense of lacking, so you feel a little more complete. But again, this is a sense of feeling uneasy, not content, you know, etc., etc. And again, this is really about the time you feel I'm lacking something. Number 7 is translated as the roots on which it depends. Again, this is a translation of kankaku izon. Kankaku izon. Kankaku is a sensory system. So depending on the sensory system, meaning roots of all of this coming in, And then when I start to say, oh, this is pleasant, this is happy, this is beautiful, then things really start to happen. And the next one is deception. Deception is a translation of kyogi. Kyogi is more not really about receiving someone's lie, but it is really about you yourself wants to do some sort of deception. Deception to yourself or deception to the others. Presenting yourself a little higher than you actually are to the others for some reason or another. Or presenting yourself a little lower, intentionally humble, so that you actually gain some favoritism, etc., etc. Why? Again, it is because you established your sense of I and you're functioning in vis-a-vis with other people's response or appraisal or etc., etc. Number 9 is translated as abscess. Abscess is a translation of haremono. This is very interesting. Sometimes we have a haremono. This abscess, we may be talking about something like a boil on the skin or some kind of infection on the skin. But our sutra is obviously talking about our mind, some internal thing. Something happens and we start to have some sort of infected wound in our mind, don't you think? And then we try to do something about it. And if we find some kind of a solution, we grasp onto that solution, and that becomes some kind of pride. This is a kind of unfortunate example, but I have a friend who went through death after death after death of very dear family members. And then at the end, this friend of mine had to really struggle as a single working mother and then raising 2 children. But, she's such a wonderful person. She did such a great job raising 2 beautiful young men. But at the same time, as on the process of doing so, for some reason or another, someone introduced a friend of mine, a channeler, who claims, this man has an ability to channel between you and the deceased person. And in the end, this person actually gives a very expensive workshop in a very prestigious, expensive, retreat center in upstate New York. So she goes there and she acquired a license, and then she now functions as a channeler to help people who wants to see the deceased person, the voice of the deceased person. And then, I don't really say anything to a friend of mine because this is the wounded heart of hers. So if some kind of criticism about this kind of workshop comes, she gets very upset. So this is the portion of the wound. This is so delicate. And then therefore, it is very difficult for anybody to point out so that it can be healed. It's a very difficult portion of our, life. I hope I don't have that anymore. I hope all of that will be taken some medicines from Buddhism. But when I see people around, and I really see many people really, keeps this haremono around, and they themselves becomes like a haremono, so delicate we can't really touch it. Number 10 is translated the action of the foolish common person. This foolish common person, this action of a foolish common person is actually a translation of gukko. Gukko doesn't mean someone's foolish action. It is not talking about the foolish common person's action. It is about us. We are common person, and we do common stupid action. And then what happens is when we do that, and particularly when we recognize the consequence of that, we start to think, oh my God, what did I do? And why did I do that? And this is really about not about the foolish action, but it is aftermath. You know, this resentment and regrets and etc., feeling so small and feeling so inferior. That is also the reason is establishing the sense of I. I did it. I created this, mess. And I am so stupid. I. In a way, you sometimes feel really sad, bad for these people, but in a way, it is a form of narcissism. Buddhism is very interesting. Sometimes it's just points out like a knife or cut. And then you really start to feel, wow, this is a really sharp teaching. So isn't this interesting? Each one of them, there's a repeated expression in this world, there's a suffering manifests in this way, etc. Please take a look at them on your own, because I don't think I have time to do this, all of them together with the group. But it is very interesting, it makes you really think. So let's take a look at the other side, cessation side, in this particular world. It is, let's see. Non-contention. I didn't put any original word because most of them are quite make sense. Non-contention meaning there's no claim from me, and there's no assumption from my side. There's no insistence. In another word, there's no opinion. So therefore, all of that actually happens because I think I am right, etc. So cessation portion is basically you recognize this I is actually empty. So you really clarified this emptiness teaching, interrelated origination teaching. In another word, you just open the hand of thought. Next one, separation from defilement. The word defilement is bonno. Bonno defilement is up to perception, there's no defilement. And then after defilement, you start to create a story. That portion is the defilement. So separation from defilement, meaning open the hand of thought. So the moment of the open the hand of thought, you actually put it into cease, extinguished it. Of course, it doesn't stay extinguished all the time. You have to keep repeating to do that. But this is number 2. Number 3 is quiescence. So this is also stopping. Our Zazen, I know many of you are in the position to give Zazen instruction. Do you recognize Zazen is actually really just stop, just stop, and then just watch what arises next. So number 3. Number 4, it is signlessness. For those of you who are new to Buddhism, this word sounds a little strange, but for those of you who have studied Prajnaparamita Sutras, this is a typical expression. Sign means I am this way. Let's say my sign I often get trapped in is that I am a man, I am 70 years old, I am old, and I am Japanese, I am a Buddhist priest. Those are my signs. I kind of impose myself. And also, these are the signs people have of me. But at the same time, these are all established I, and also I vis-a-vis others. And in the true reality, there's no I. So therefore, there's no sign. I am just I am. It's not, I am not a sign. I am just I am. And then 5, no submersion. No submersion is really about that portion I read intentionally from 12 challenges from Lotus Sutra. So therefore, you don't get to drown, because there's nothing to be drowned by and drowning in. And the next sense is absence of inherent existence. This just makes exactly as it is, which means absence of I thought there's this I. But then as I practice, as I keep studying, I really start to understand this body is not I. My opinion is not I. My thoughts, I can't even, understand next thought that will come in like 10 seconds later. My thought is not I. My feeling constantly changes. Even if you are clinically depressed, even if you are taking depression medication, if you do meditation, you will really see it's not like an oppression all the time. It's sometimes off, sometimes oppressed, sometimes off. So there's no inherent existence, static existence. And then number 7, this is the very interesting portion. Absence of obstacle is the translation of muge. Do you remember that word? This is the typical, word Kengon school really started to, explain what the Kengon's teaching is about. No obstacle. No obstacle, even matter to matter has no obstacle. I was talking about, for instance, I am sitting on this chair, and then, it is not possible to bring some other matter to the chair I'm sitting, physically. But at the same time, if you really understand the teaching, this chair and other matter I really like to bring in, or this chair and this matter sitting on this chair are always interrelated. And if you really go back to even stretch more and more and more, like the poem I read for you, Thich Nhat Hanh's poem, it's actually all related under this universe. So therefore, it's no obstacle. It's just completely actually merged with everything. Number 8 is cessation. I don't think I need to explain anything about this, but I have another dear friend. I have known her more than, let's see, how many years? Nearly 40 years. She's been always a great friend. I have heard, by the time I met her, she was such a successful, wonderful lady. And then everybody in the neighborhood loved her very much. But later on, I have heard her life story, and she was once having a very difficult time in her life, divorce and raising a child by herself as a working mother, etc., etc. Got her involved with alcohol. And then she spent several years of alcoholism, and then came to the point, there's something really, it has to be done, something has to be done to this. So she went to AA meeting for the first time. But I think by that time she was already studying Buddhism for some level or another. She steps in, listened to the other people. She found, oh, this is what it is. And then she didn't have to go back to the meeting any longer. On that part, she actually clarified what's happening. And then she has been sober ever since then. It's a very interesting thing. I really like to talk about what exactly happened when she said, oh, but I think you know. Anyway, she actually, I think, saw right in front of her own face, her own reflections in the mirror. And when she listened to the other people, stepping aside, giving a little bit of distance, how this grasping started to happen, and why this started to happen, why this sense of lack Why this sense of I have to fill in this lack, I have to kind of delude myself, I have to kind of relax myself by something happens. And when you see the core reason, you can actually say, oh, and then you can kind of snap out of it. In her case, it was really lucky. She has learned about Buddhist, theology, and she really saw it as it is, and that became a one turning, word for her. So that's the type of the cessation sometimes happen. Number 9, reality of substance. This substance is actually empty. Substance means matter, all of this. And then in true reality, including this substance, the most importantly, this substance is actually empty. Abiding in inherently existent nature, meaning Prajnaparamita Sutras have this wonderful expression: sit very, very stably in the chair of emptiness. So if you really clarify this teaching, you can just really be still in this emptiness. So this is the cessation portion. Isn't this interesting? And also, I hope you are listening to this and reading this as this is your life. It has nothing to do with something written, so you need to grasp it so that you can actually explain to somebody. It is really about your life. And what's really important is bringing this into your own life experiences and see, you know what, I actually did this too. And you know what, I'm really blessed because I encountered the Buddha's teaching, and so therefore sometimes I experience this cessation portion as well. It's a constant effort. You just have this dukkha, and then you cessation, and then dukkha and cessation. It's life itself, really. Now, with a little bit of time left, I really like to do one thing, which means I'm going to point out a couple of very interesting portions of this. Again, I wrote it down, so I'm going to use the shared screen. Okay. Hold on, did I write it down? Yes, here. On page 279, let me take a look at this too. I hope this is interesting for you. 79. Almost in the middle of the page, they're talking about a world called Joyous Delight World. Now, this is not our world, but some other world. But actually, this is our world as well. This is their way of talking about. And this world is one cessation of the suffering may be synonymous with such and such and such and such, and it lists with breaking with dependencies. In English translation, it makes no sense. But the breaking with dependencies, meaning breaking away from 12 links of causation. Do you understand the significance of it? The significance of it is this. In ancient Indian Buddhism, they are really worried about reincarnation because their life is very difficult. You can imagine how life could have been really difficult 2,500 years ago. Recently I have this medical issues, and then the type of the treatment I receive wasn't available 1 generation ago. So if I had the same medical issues only 1 generation ago, I must have went through lots of pains and without any kind of hopes to treat, etc., etc. And plus all this, fantastic modern technology and etc. we live in 2,500 years ago, except for very, very, very few people, the life itself was very difficult. And the Indian folks traditionally believed in this Atman system. So therefore, you have a portion of the God in you as a soul. And when you die, your body goes away, but this soul looks for next living style. So therefore, you reincarnate. And then they believed if you kind of screw up your life currently, next time you may be reborn into something really awful situation. So therefore, current situation is not that good. Living itself is really difficult. And then you really have to reborn into, again, sometimes even worse situation. So their way of thinking is they really want to stop this constant rebirth. And their spiritual goal is actually get away from these links of reincarnation on and on and on. So what they talk about breaking from dependency is you no longer reincarnate. Now, when Gautama Buddha showed up, Gautama Buddha said things don't work that way because there's no static thing within this. There's no static thing, meaning there will be no reincarnation. You don't have to worry about that. But at the same time, this reincarnation system also functioned as a sort of like a moral and ethical code in ancient India. And then even now, many of those Indian people actually seriously believe in reincarnation. And in their community, it works pretty well. Because if you don't want to be reborn into something awful, you behave yourself in this life. Yes? So this was a really like kind of functioning well. And then some young person whose name is Gautama Buddha appears and he starts to say, listen, this is made by interdependent origination. There's no static thing, etc., etc. So therefore, after Buddha died, I'm sure there are lots of criticism about his teaching. So as a Buddhist organization starts to be organized and they started to be a little more like a status thing, first of all, it was very difficult for them to understand this theory of interdependent origination. And also it was very difficult for them to be criticized by the other group of people. So for some reason or another, this Atman belief system was brought in, and then there's some strange dilemma and strange mixture of one portion of the sutra is talking about emptiness teaching. There's no static self, and then interbeing, interdependent origination, and one portion of the sutra is talking about reincarnation. And that's why Paricanon sounds very strange, but that's actually historically what happened. Until Mahāyāna Buddhism really starts to arise and then start to challenge on that. So therefore, one of the reasons they said this is a synonym of breaking, this is actually breaking away from 12 links of causation. And this 12 links causation was also twisted as in this lifetime and then next lifetime. So they are actually humorously, but also very strong, statement as a counter statement. With this teaching, if you really clarify this teaching, there's no such a thing like 12 links of causation. Round and round and round and round of reincarnation happens. So you may really oversight this just reading it through. But from our point of view, this is a really radical statement. It's very interesting. And the next portion, let me use the another one more page earlier, page 278. Again, towards the end of the page, cessation portion lists as undying. I'm sure this translator thought, and what shall I do with this? Undying is translation of fushi. There's no death. You don't die. So again, What does that mean? Very often, when you take a look at the old text of Buddhism, people completely misunderstand. They are talking about becoming Buddha. You acquire this supernatural power, so you never die. But Buddha is not like a Dracula or a Frankenstein. As a matter of fact, in one portion, he actually is depicted as a human being, and he's old, and he gets sick, and he dies. But in other portion, there are lots of description. When you do this, when you become a Buddha, you say no death, no death, no death. But this no death meaning, in their language, it's you don't reincarnate, because when you say death in their context of their time in India, death meaning reincarnate into the next life. So therefore, when you see the word fushi, not dying, undying, also means this is a very strong radical counter statement to the mass belief system saying no reincarnation. Actually, there's no Atman, it's Anatman, which probably was very difficult for these people 2,500 years ago. Even now, it's very difficult to understand. So Mahāyāna Sutra is very interesting. Particularly this Mahāyāna Sutra, which was created throughout this transitional time, is revolutionary. I hope you really get that portion clearly. Now, my next task is, again, I really worry about, Buddhist text feels so heady, and particularly because I have to explain, what it means from the scratch, because Buddhism is very new to the people outside of Asian countries. So, and also there's this language issue. So I really worry about, this lecture series becomes so dry and conceptual, and you forget that this is really about our life. So therefore, I always try to explain first, because it's a compulsory, then try to show you an example of what exactly this means. That portion I like to do after the coffee break. Now time is up. So we go through 30 minutes coffee break, and I think all of us need a little bit of caffeine infusion. Okay, so I'll see you in 30 minutes. Thank you very much, and Atutalar.